Tatiana Sanchez, the Director of Communications here at National Marriage Week. National Marriage Week launches every February 7th through the 14th, and it's a fun time of events all across our nation. But it's also a movement that is growing all year long, when we're ministry leaders, churches, those in our government, and even us as couples are coming together to stand up and say we value our marriages. Our families and our country can flourish when the marriages within our homes are strong and healthy. So, we are so glad that you wanted to join us this evening and that you want to be intentional about growing individually and in your marriage. Each of our panelists is freely giving of their time to be here for you this evening to serve you in your marriage. Whether your marriage is struggling or in a really good spot, we are here to help arm you with the skills to make it even better. We are cheering you on. So let's get started.
Hello, viewers. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm so delighted you've joined our National Marriage Week panel discussion tonight. I'm Amy Morgan, your host this evening. We are here with a panel of experts who've helped thousands of couples keep the romance alive. I'm actually not sure which of these marriage veterans has been married longer. I believe it's Claudia and David Arp who celebrated their 62nd anniversary recently, but Dr. Willard Harley and his wife Joyce have also been married 62 years. We may have to get down to the date of their actual wedding to decide. Now, newbies like Gorman have more than 26 years of marriage together, and I am delighted to introduce them to you tonight. Greg and Julie are founders for Married for a Purpose. They are passionate about equipping marriage coaches with a unique, proven system to help couples thrive. Through their innovative business tree, a blend of business and ministry, Greg and Julie train and empower coaches to replicate their impactful process, restoring God's intent for families and creating legacies of connection and purpose. Their trademarked Married for a Purpose marriage reboot has an impressive 99.7% success rate. Claudia and David Arp are authors and speakers who pioneered the concept of dating your mate. They are best known for their 10 Great Dates book series, which have sold over 1 million copies in more than 10 languages. They've been featured in USA Today, The Washington Post, The Wall Street Journal, and Time Magazine, among others. Dr. Willard Harley Jr. is probably best known for his book, His Needs, Her Needs, Building an Affair-Proof Marriage, which was first published as support material for his marriage counseling program back in 1986. Within 3 years, it became a bestseller, and marriage counselors still use it today as a basic reference for marriage counseling. Prior to this, Dr. Harley had built up his practice, becoming one of the largest mental health clinics in Minnesota with 32 locations and more than 100 psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and chemical dependency counselors who provided a full range of mental health services. Dr. Bill and his wife, Joyce, host a daily call-in radio show, Marriage Builders Radio, that's also on the internet. They live in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, have 2 adult children who work with them as marriage coaches, and 8 grandchildren. Thank you, guys, all for being here.
Yay, what a great time.
Yes. Well, Valentine's Day seems to embody all the American cultural ideas of love, romance, and celebrating with the one to show him or her how extra special they are. Expectations are high, and disappointment can result if an effort worthy of a holiday movie does not pan out. What if this year, instead of pining for chocolates and flowers, we mark the date by learning from the wisdom of these long married couples who've discovered how to fan the flame of lasting love for a lifetime? These relationship experts quite literally wrote the book of best practices that have helped them joyfully journey through decades together. Dr. Harley, can you tell us why Valentine's Day has a potential for downside?
It's a big risk because what you try to do in Valentine's Day is demonstrate to your spouse how much you love and care for him or her. It's something that is a commitment that you review. They say, this is what I've been doing all year long, and I just want to use this time to, again, express my deepest love and care for you. Well, there are many couples that just haven't been doing that. And so when they have Valentine's Day coming up, they feel they have to do something because it's expected of them. And in many, many cases, it absolutely falls flat. But if you don't do anything, then you're really in trouble. And so the best Valentine's Day are for couples like those of us that are on this program, where we practice care for our spouse throughout the year. And Valentine's Day is just another year where we again express our love and care for the one that God has chosen for us for life and for eternity.
I love that. You talk about romantic love. Could you, because that was kind of the premise of your whole his needs, her needs. Tell us a little bit more about romantic love.
Well, there are two kinds of love. There is caring love, which is a decision. And you can care for somebody you don't even know. You can send money to them. You can provide resources for them. You can even have them come to your home and be and like in LA, where they're having all of these fires and now floods. You can have people stay with you that you wouldn't have known before because you care about them. But then there's romantic love, which is an incredible attraction to somebody of the opposite sex. And romantic love is usually what gets us married. We may care about a lot of people, but we don't necessarily want to marry them. We want to marry the person who we are just incredibly attracted to. And so I think of romantic love as something that the other person is doing for me. If I'm in love with Joyce, it's because of the way she treats me and the emotional needs that she's meeting for me, and the fact that she's not doing things to hurt me, and the fact that we make our decisions together. That's why I love her. I love her for what she does for me. My care, the caring love, is what I do for her. And it's a decision that I make. And if I can care for Joyce and not be in love with her because she's not caring for me, or vice versa. But I think in most marriages, people expect to care for each other, but they don't know exactly how to do it to create and sustain romantic love. So I've spent my entire career training people how to be lovers instead of likers.
Oh, and one of the things you talked about was making your spouse happy. And one of the ways people make each other happy is to spend time together on a date. The anticipation of fun and connection gives them something to look forward to instead of the stress of the world. Claudia, you and David promoted the idea of dating your spouse before that whole date night concept became popular. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a couple 100 years ago, I think.
Right. First, we discovered it for ourselves. We were living in Germany. We were there with crew. We had gone over with 6 weeks' notice and a toddler and a 4 and a 6-year-old, a husband who was so excited about this opportunity, a wife who thought we made the worst mistake of our life. And we landed there, and we were a mess.
Yeah, we were a mess.
And so
Claudia was not happy, to say the least.
Well, I got there. We got there physically in July. I think emotionally, I arrived about February. But one of the first things that happened to us when it was just a few couples with crew that were in Germany at that time, and this older couple just reached out to us.
They took pity on us.
They did, and they
they said, "Hey, we'll take care of your kids. You guys you really need to spend some time together." So they would come take care of our kids, and we would go into the little village on the German-Swiss border, and we'd go down and have a cup of coffee or a glass of tea, and we started talking, and hey, you're not bad, yeah. I don't know, just the things started happening, and the people that we were working with, we were primarily working in Switzerland, and the couples that we were working with there, they started coming to us and said, "You guys are changed. You're not the same as when you got here. What's happening?" And so we started thinking about it, and it was those dates down to the village, and also we started studying the scripture together. We had not done that in the past, and that was another major aspect of it.
We had been in a really busy ministry. We were living in Knoxville, Tennessee before we went to Germany. And so we had a front door relationship when we passed the kids back and forth. And so it was just a wake up call, like we have this time. We don't have any English speaking friends. We don't have a place to live for 3 months. I mean, we had a lot of time to just look at each other, and God began to work. But the dating just really helped us so much that a few years later, when we were in Vienna, Austria, actually working on putting together some curriculum on marriage education for German-speaking countries and what was then Eastern Europe, we came back to this concept of dating.
Yeah, we had we were trying to put it in some kind of a format that other couples could use in a small group, or churches could use, or a couple, or just individual couples. And we had I don't want to go too long here, but so we had a couple. He was a heart specialist, a German Austrian heart specialist, married to an American, and their marriage was not doing well. In fact, she had moved back to the States, and friends of ours. Mutual friends said, you need to get together. She had come back and she said, you need to get together with them. We did. And, we're not counselors. We're not trained counselors.
Dr. Hartley, we needed you there.
Yeah. Where were you when we needed that? So we sat down with them, and the tension in the air was just, you could just feel it. And so Claudia and I sort of looked at each other and said, well, Lord, what do we do? And so I just said, tell me how you guys met. What was the circumstances? And it turned out that she had broken her leg skiing, and he was the doctor that was helping her recover. And he started bringing her flowers and candy and stuff like that. And as they both started talking a little bit about that first encounter with each other, that you could sort of feel like the tension was beginning to melt away a little bit. And so then, as we were working our 10 Great Dates, we needed somebody to test it out. So he said, hey, we're writing this book, 10 Great Dates. Would you like to maybe test them out? And so they said, sure. So they would come on Sunday afternoon. We would give them the dates. They'd go out to the area. He says, you get in trouble, come back. And never came back, but they went through all 10 dates. And
we stayed in contact with them for many years, and they really made an impact on the world in their lives. And so that's sort of how we got involved with 10 Great Dates.
I like it. And you were teaching the couple how to date and to plan fun things. And Greg and Julie, that you do that too. You actually even have a chart that you use. Tell us how you kind of work this process.
What's so funny is, like, I think once you've been married just a short little time, it's easy to get into a rut. Like, where do you want to go to eat? I don't know. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to a movie? And you just get in this like kind of mode of always doing the same thing. So we like to spice it up. One thing that we say is live like a tourist. We're here in Southern Florida, and people spend good money to come here
from all over the world.
And what do we do on a date? I don't know. You want to go for a pizza? I don't know where you want to go. So we ended up creating this really cool chart. It's called a common interest chart. And there's 4 different columns. There's like things you can do spiritually. There's things you can do with gifts of service, and then there's like fun activities. And so we list them all out, and we use it in our process of the marriage reboot for couples to fill out. Well, what's so cool, we had this one couple had been married like 37 years, and they began to define themselves by their differences.
Which often happens. And they were convinced they have nothing in common anymore. They filled out that chart, and they acted like a bunch of kids in high school. They were giggling. They started using it to do different dates and break up the monotony. And so it was really cool. Yeah, through the entire process, it's one of the things that they said really stood out to them the most, because, again, we can get in a habit of kind of defining ourselves by our differences. And I want to throw a word of caution about that, right? There's only one way to build anything, and that's to build it on common ground. And if we forget our common ground, then again, we kind of go to our individual silos. And I hate to bring up bad stuff, but at the end of the day, you don't have to look any further than American politics right now, to figure out what happens when we begin to define.
We live in DC. We understand that issue.
Right?
So when we build on common ground, and then when we take time to, I think it's so important. Julie and I have had to learn we live in a society where the world's just spinning so fast, right? I mean, it is really clicking along, and I think that we're addicted to busyness sometimes.
Yeah.
And we've learned that what we have to do is we really have to very intentionally defend that downtime, so that we're not just having a date night so that we're checking it off the box and we can say that we did it, but so that we're actually carving out some time to connect. And that can be in a million different ways. It can be in your living room. It can be cooking in the kitchen. We went in one of our most memorable date nights actually that we had, and this is funny.
We were broke as a joke.
We were broke as a joke.
Broke as a joke.
We were indeed. And so we're trying to figure out what we were going to do to have fun. And so we just tried to come up with something silly and fun. And we said, okay, so here's the deal. $5, you get $5 and I get $5. We're going to Dollar General. And so we legit just kind of split up and we'd meet, and they had some 80s playing, and we're 80s kids, you know what I mean? So we're dancing in the aisles. We're just cutting up and being silly, you know what I mean? Because we were just, okay, what can you get? And come back, and at the end we compared what we got for each of us for our $5. So again, it's something that doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but I think it's important to break up the monotony a little bit and do some things that are different and really be intentional about that.
Super.
I love that. Well, and recreational companionship, which is what you're talking about, dating, doing things together, and intimate conversation are two of those top 10 needs that you identify, Dr. Harley, as ways to create that connection and increase the marital happiness. For those who might not know, can you explain that whole love bank concept? Because it was so foundational. I mean, like everybody kind of has, it's kind of in pop culture now, but I don't know that anyone could really articulate it, and certainly not as well as you.
Well, the question is, how do you create romantic love in the other person? And I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure that out. I was very much in love myself, but I was counseling people who were not in love. And so the question is, how do they get to where I am? And the question is, what am I doing that they're not doing? And to make a long story short, I was able to identify 4 emotional needs that made the most love unit deposits that people can make in their marriage. And I identified them as affection, intimate conversation, recreational companionship, and sexual fulfillment. And so I created the concept of dating as fulfilling those 4 emotional needs. And I required the couples that I counseled to do those things 15 hours a week. Now, if you read His Needs, Her Needs, the first 4 emotional needs that are mentioned are those 4 emotional needs. And my argument is, if you just do those 4 things 15 hours a week in dating, you're going to find yourselves in love in a very short period of time. And so I would just tell people, this is what you do. Now, this is what a date is. The 15 hours is the canvas. That's your time. And what you have to do during that time is you have to be affectionate. You have to be able to talk to each other in a very intimate way, which means that you're talking about each other. You are, and I have guidelines for what intimate conversation is. And you have to be doing something fun. You have to have a recreational part of and then you need to, at least you need to be sexual toward each other. Now, you don't have to make love necessarily, but you should be it should be a sexual experience. And you do that 15 hours a week. Now, I was telling people to do something that Joyce and I had been doing all along. And this was something that I recognized as something as a big problem for couples. I am a workaholic. I had in the past have worked 70 hours a week. I actually billed 70 hours a week. Wow. And I had a lot of other people that I was encouraging to do the same thing. And I was dating Joyce during that time. And it was not 15 hours. It was usually more than 15 hours. And the question is, well, where do you find the time? Yeah. Well, you have 112 hours every week to do things. And if you work 70 hours and you have 15 hours for undivided attention, that gives you 22 hours left. You can do anything you want. You can go to church, you can pray, you can you can play pool by yourself, you can do anything you want, but those are the two things you need to do. And so my whole program has been how to create romantic love in your marriage. And the quickest way to do it is a romantic date. And it's those 4 things that have to be accomplished every time you date. That's my basic, that's the basic. On the website, marriagebuilders.com, I have a tab on romantic dating. And I go through, there are 23 chapters to it altogether. And all the objections that people give me, all the problems that they have, they can't find babysitters, they just can't think of things to do, and all the rest of that. I try to address all of the things that people say they can't do in romantic dating. And one of the things that I know you can do is you can do romantic dating and work as hard as I've worked throughout my entire life at the same time.
You don't sleep, Dr. Harley, do you?
I get 8 hours of sleep every night. Like I say, if you schedule your time carefully, you can do a lot of things. What people often do is they waste their time. They're not doing things that are terribly constructive. Another goal is 15 additional hours that you'd spend in quality family time. But even then, you still have time left over. So you have time if you schedule things carefully. I don't recommend 70 hours a week of work, though.
I love that, though. Greg, you talked about fun, not just being an activity, but an attitude.
Yeah, indeed. I love what Dr. Harley just said too. One of the things that we remind ourselves of often, which relates to what you were just talking about, Dr. Harley, is don't let what you can't do keep you from what you can. It's so easy for us to get in that disempowering mindset of what we can't do and rehearsing those things of what we can't do. And every season of life is different. Some of them are financially challenged. Sometimes it's a time challenge or whatever else. And then I think, to what you were just mentioning, like sometimes activities have so much hype in them that they don't live up to the hype when we actually engage in those activities. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? And so that's a little bit let down. And so we learned some years back through a series of events, and I'll let Julie tell on herself, that fun is indeed an attitude, because you can have fun doing anything.
Right.
It's not about the activity. It's about the attitude that we go into it. Do you want to tell on yourself?
I'm going to tell on myself. So our adult children were coming in from Delaware, and they wanted to go kayaking. Well, I had just started working out again, and I was sore. Last thing I wanted to do was get a kayak and start, rowing.
It was pretty windy that day too.
And it was like 15 to 17 mile per hour winds. And so the whole way there, I'm like trying to give all these suggestions to go do. We had a whole common interest chart that we could have went did all kinds of different activities.
Yeah, she wasn't happy about it at all.
Happy. So I had a stinking attitude. I was grumbling under my breath. This is so stupid. Why did they want to go? They would be talked out of it. And finally, Greg in his wisdom looked at me and said, "Sweetheart, this is what we're doing. And we can be miserable, or we can go and we can have fun." And it was a good date because I was like, that actually makes that makes sense.
We're doing it anyway. We might as well have fun.
And so what was awesome about that, we literally started doing gator calls. We're laughing, we're hee-hawing. And I look back and my kids are going, "This is the stupidest idea we've ever done." So that's what I did on fun is an attitude, not an activity. It's not the activity, it's what we bring into it that really makes the difference.
Oh, I love that. How about you, David and Claudia? You have a lot of different dates that you suggest, things that you like to do.
Well, we agree with you guys. Dating is an attitude, and we found that, we can turn almost anything into a date. Because of our age, we get a flu shot every year. So we go together. It's a flu shot date. And I'll let Claudia go first.
That's a new one. That is done.
went to my common interest chart. So.
We have your picture from CVS. The pharmacist there was so.
So anyway, I let Claudia go first. So, because I'm not really into shots, but if it doesn't hurt too bad, then I get mine. And so at CVS for this one year, I really hammed it out. I had my thing rolled up, and I was going, I can't. They were taking pictures of it, and it ended up on Facebook. So, but you can take something that you just have to do, and as you said, it's an attitude you can, if you. It's a mindset. You can turn anything into a
That's the date we plan every year. Now we always go together to get our flu shots.
Yeah,
and then we can stop by and have coffee and something.
Yeah, we can do something fun afterwards.
We can go to Costco or Sam's and for hors d'oeuvres around its dinner.
I love that.
But we just realized that you could just turn about anything into
I just came to mind, since we're talking about Valentine's Day, talking about attitude, we were coming back from doing a seminar out in California, and it was on Valentine's Day, and so we're flying in, and Clyde looked over at me and said, "What are we going to eat tonight?" And I said, I don't know. You have no idea?
This is Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We have been busy all weekend helping couples celebrate Valentine's.
So anyway,
so it was a little downer to realize, we don't even have any food at home. We've been gone. And so
Claudia, being the creative person she always is, she says, well, let's just stop by Balducci's, which is sort of a high-end grocery store in our area. And we'll pick out something really nice to eat.
And we'll take it home and have a Valentine's dinner.
Yeah.
And so, really splurged on the food.
Yeah. And so while she was getting the food, I went over and they had a really nice display of roses. And yellow roses are Claudia's favorite. So I picked up a dozen yellow roses. I came over she was in the meat department. I said, sweetheart, I love you. These are for you.
Oh, thank you. It's
she smelled them.
I love roses. And so we
put it in a basket.
And so we finished getting our dinner. And then I thought, I have nothing for Dave. And they had a big display of Godiva chocolate. And I know that he loves chocolate. And so I got a really nice box. And I said, Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to check out. And we were also leaving in like 2 days to go to another conference. And so those roses are pretty pricey and they're going to just wilt. And so I just took them and put them back.
I said, what are you doing? She says, we're leaving in 2 days. You're going to die. I've enjoyed them. And she smelled them a couple more times and she went and put them back.
My friends, you gave me a dozen yellow roses.
So they were still standing in line. It's a long line. I was looking. I said, okay, to get Godiva chocolate. Well, okay, that's expensive. And I really don't need the extra calories or whatever. So I said, okay, I get it. So thank you for Godiva.
We did take the food home, and we had.
I was wondering where we were going.
That was some willpower to have one dinner. So you can turn anything.
It's all an attitude.
It is.
I like what Greg and Julie said about fun is an attitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
We tell our couples that fun in marriage is serious business. We've never met anyone on the way to the divorce court who were having a fun date. So
that's so good, y'all.
So true.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Greg, you and Julie, you have some rituals at the grocery store too, don't you?
Well, let me just say this. We've definitely had some grocery store date nights. It's not uncommon that we've had that. Sometimes it's funny because we actually really love to shop with one another. Yeah. And although it's not, the top of the list, there's times just when you're hammered down and you've got kids running everywhere and there's just so many different things that are pulling on us that it is actually an escape for us to be able to go and actually do some shopping and hang out with one another. I think all too often what happens though is that in our marriage relationship, when we first get together, it's easy for us to put our best foot forward, right? And we see the best, we speak the best, we actually believe the best about the other person. We've got a lot of grace for them. And I think that sometimes after we get married, there's that one C word, the commitment enters into the picture, right? And it's interesting because if you watch couples, a lot of times after they get the commitment, there's another C that enters in, and that's comfort. And we just get comfortable with one another, right?
Yeah.
And that's when things begin to slip because another C enters the picture, and that is complacency. And so when we become complacent in the relationship, then instead of everything being fun, you know, and us having the right attitude, what we tend to do is really nitpick and pull each other apart and start finding faults and things of that nature, right? And so what we've learned is that all thought leaders throughout time have agreed on one central thing. They disagree on a whole bunch of things, but they all agree on one central thing. It doesn't matter if they're Baptist or Buddhist or anywhere in between. And that is that we become what we think about. King Solomon said, as we think in our heart, so we become. And so we find what we're looking for too. And so if we're in that complacent space, we've got to do something to break up the monotony and begin to change that and really begin to, I like the word obsess over the things that our spouse is doing
He
that we
creeps
love.
on me.
Again, I do.
That's what he does. He creeps. When we go to the store, I walk out and he's driving up and he's kind of watching with fresh eyes and he creeps on me.
So yeah, like I watch her and I try to see her with fresh eyes. You know what I mean? And that helps me again to be able to see her afresh instead of like a piece of furniture or something that we get used to each other.
She's too cute to be a piece of furniture.
She does too, trust me.
Intentionality. If we can keep it at the forefront, you know, we're not as seasoned as you all. I can't wait till we can say that we've been married 62 years.
Right?
26 years, I thought I was doing intentionality. And so I
This
like
is the best stage of life. This is absolutely
I have
the
to
best
tell
stage.
you, I was 10, he was 12 when we got
of
married.
course, right? I was going to say you're probably
We were young. We married in college.
I was at Georgia Tech. She was at the University of Georgia.
And you were,
we decided this wasn't working very well, so we.
Well, if you remember in your history books, the Cuban Missile Crisis. That October,
Yeah, that's a long time ago, way back. You know.
We thought they were going to blow the world up before we had a chance to live together.
right.
Planned and had a church wedding at Christmas.
December 28th, 1962. So, Dr. Harley, when were you all married?
Well, I was married. Joyce was 19, and she was 3 years older than her mother was when she got married.
Wow.
So we come from a family where people get married early, and I was 21. And the basic, you know, you're talking about dating, and of course, I too, in my whole marriage counseling career, have been stressing dating. Dating is it's when you read His Needs, Her Needs, it starts with dating. You really have to figure out how you can enjoy 15 hours of undivided attention every week. And then you have the formula for romantic love for the rest of your lives. Well, I dated Joyce when I was 15. And basically, I didn't have any money. When I was 16, I had a car, but we had 25-cent dates. And we 25 cents is what it would take to get the lights on in the tennis court. And the basic idea is that, like you said before, it's what you do when you're together more than the entertainment outside of you as a couple. And I do a lot of training as to how that can work for a couple. A lot of times they have to look back at what it was like when they were having a lot of fun together, and how can you keep that going with 4 kids that are under the age of 7? And it has to be a deliberate thing. Now, I happen to be the kind of person who works hard and plays hard. I'm very deliberate. I put myself under a great deal of pressure. when I got through school, I got through college in 2.5 years, and then I got my PhD in 3 years. And basically, I'm a hard worker, but I needed something that I could look forward to every day to keep me going. And for me, it was a date. If Joyce wasn't my date, I found somebody else to be my date. And so if Joyce broke up with me, the next day I was out with another girl. And the basic idea is that that was my reward. That was what I did to keep myself going. And so the question is, why is it that Joyce and I are still madly in love with each other here at 62 years out and have never not been in love with each other? And I can say that part of it is something I need. I need to have this outlet every day. And I love having it with a romantic partner. It's what kept me going. And I did not get into marriage counseling with intent to be a marriage counselor. I basically was interested in artificial intelligence. I was doing computer programming back in 1962 when nobody else was doing it. And I thought that marriage counseling was phony. It just wasn't anything that interested me at all. But what occurred to me was that everybody that I knew wanted what Joyce and I had, and still do, actually. And I can tell them it's the time we spend dating. And we are out of the house when we date. We do not date in the house. When we're in the house, that's not a date. It's what we go out to do, and we do it intentionally, and we do it with a great deal of affection toward each other and a great deal of great conversation. And that's what I teach people how to do. I teach people how to do what Joyce and I did naturally. And when you don't do it naturally, you can, in fact, be trained to do the same thing.
I love that. And sometimes there's other just little things. I know, David, you and Claudia have a couple of suggestions of how to get that love and feeling back. You have some bears that you demonstrate with. Can you tell us?
Oh, we actually pull them out.
Oh,
Yeah,
There they are.
they are. They're million milers with Delta Airlines.
Delta.
They've been everywhere in the world,
They've
and
been to
but you know they
Hong
stay in the
Kong.
bag. They stay in the bag, and I don't know what they do in the bag.
They
But
just,
it's fountain. Who knows?
one thing that we do in our seminars is to encourage couples to be affectionate, to bring on that romance. And we say, when you come home and you connect at the end of the day, kiss for 10 seconds. And
when you leave in the morning,
kiss for 10 seconds.
So it's just 20 seconds
and
a day.
We say, we promise you that if you do that 20 seconds every day, it's going to make a difference in your marriage, in your romance.
Yeah, in your relationship.
And so people look at us and they roll their eyes oh,
what's the big deal?
So we just say, oh, we need to.
They're going to kiss for 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Let's see how long it takes. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
they have
longer.
little magnets in their noses.
Okay, here they go. 1003, 1004. Long time, isn't it? 1006.
Oh my
1007. 1008.
Sometimes
I love it.
Okay, for all of you guys watching, that's a take home. That's something you can do tonight. And by the way, we're not responsible for any offspring. We'll go there.
Oh, I'm so glad that ship sailed.
We have created lots of little ones running around. That's our objective.
Ukraine.
That was Ukraine, yeah.
Ukraine. Anyway, but that and then 20-second hugs.
Yeah.
Also helps start that oxytocin, and all those good hormones that.
That's how you can be married for 62 years. You do this crazy stuff.
I love it. I love it. You know, we do that 20-second hug. And when we do, we're empty nesters, but our dog, like they paw at us like toddlers. Like, no, get in. We're like, no. funny. But anyway, I love that. I know you, Greg and Julie, you talk about a priority conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I want to dovetail back, if I can, on what a little
Mhm.
bit I was saying a minute ago about we become what we think about and things of that nature. Like, and then I'll come straight back to what the priority, because it dovetails well. But the what I was driving at is that when we begin to obsess about what we love about one another, again, then it begins to change that. And again, I love what y'all are talking about, David and Claudia, too. Just simple things that can be implemented immediately that begin to get us back on track. Because if we find evidence, we're, as human beings, we self-justify. And so when we're able to find evidence for what we want in life instead of the things that what we don't want in life, then it moves us. Again, this is leveraging the head knowledge again of like we become what we think about. So let's think about what we're thinking about. Now, with that, one of the things that Julie and I do, it's a little different than a date night, but each week we have a priority conversation. And in that priority conversation, one of the things that we talk about is just Julie will ask me, hey, babe, what's your priority for this week? Like the number one priority. And it usually takes me a minute to sort out all of those important things that I think are all priority to discern exactly what the one priority is. But then when I do, then I return the favor and ask her the same question. And then
all we do is we just simply say, how can I support you in that? I love that conversation because we're working together. We're together 24/7. Everything that we do, we're in the house, we're outside the house. Everything is so we are. And so
I like it.
in those conversations, it's interesting how we could still be completely on separate pages. And so when we have that conversation,
Right.
it's very intentional.
Yep.
It's to understand what's important to the other person. And I think it's really key when you do that kind of a conversation, like, babe, what's your priority this week? Not to be upset if their priority is something different than what you think it should be. It's just simply, and how can I support you? That allows me to take a posture of understanding what's going on in his world and for him to understand what's going on in my world and being able to then either divide and conquer or come together and get a project done together.
Well, I'll tell you, I really recommend, I have to tell you, when you first start this process, it actually is hard work because we think that we could put an S here in America on the word priority. But as Greg McCowan wrote, when you put an S, you delineate the whole meaning of the word. There is no such thing as priorities, right? There's only one priority. And so again, with so many important things, when we sort out what that one thing is, right, then one, it's really good when she asked me that, because most of the time I might not know exactly what my priority is until I think about it. But when I do, then it helps me know exactly what I need to be focusing on. But more importantly, when she tells me what is most important for her this week to achieve, and then I return fire and ask her, how can I support you in that? It just builds intimacy in the relationship. And so often we think about intimacy, especially us dudes, in the bedroom, right? But this is kind of those keys of staying connected and staying on the same page and understanding what's going on in the person's life as well, so that we're handling intimacy outside the bedroom as well.
Well, and one of the great things is sometimes we'll look at one another and literally just say, I have 500 million things that need to get done this week, but you are the priority.
100%.
And so it allows us to be able to say here, and everybody was talking about Dr. Hartley, you were talking about like you'd go out on a date, that was the win. Well, sometimes it's just like, okay, we have all of this activity that are responsibilities and we can't shirk those responsibilities, but the priority is on this night, this day, we're carving out time and we're shutting off the phones, we're shutting off the world, and we're going to connect one-on-one together.
Yeah, and I think you have to get creative with that timing sometimes too, right? Like David and Claudia talked a lot about different dates that they do. And I love what Dr. Harley said too. During the years that our kids were in school and such, they were very active in the church. And so they were always at church on Wednesday night. And so one of the things that we did is because I'll tell you what happened is a lot of times it was like, okay, it's date night. And I'd ask Julie, hey, do you want to go do this? Or do you want to go do that? And she's like, yeah, that sounds great. And about 2 seconds later, she would say, should we invite the kids? And I'm thinking,
No.
It was particularly in the latter season when they were getting ready to be exiting the home, and I think Mama was trying to,
all the last moments,
right, exactly, to savor all of that. But what was cool is we discovered that Wednesday night was a great night for us to establish date night because they were all at church anyway, and we didn't have to feel guilty. And what was really cool about carving out a specific night that we made sure that we did this is, I think it was Dr. Harley that mentioned this, it gave us something to look forward to specifically. So I would literally wake up on Wednesday morning, and the first thing I would think, I'm not even kidding you, is like, it's date night. Like, I get to go spend time with my kid, and that, like, it just set the tone for the rest of the day. And I made sure that I didn't exert myself so much that I didn't have anything left for her.
And we said one little funny text.
No, that's super. That's, sometimes in our seminars we say, if you're going out on a great date and you're backing out of the garage and one of you says, hey, did you see the Visa bill today?
Oh,
If you are having a great date, you're going to have a business meeting, and what you're talking about, so many couples don't do that on a regular basis. They only do it when there's a crisis. And to be intentional about setting those priorities, that priority.
I like priority.
Yeah, you like priority. Yeah, that's an excellent.
Tomorrow I'll tell you what mine is.
It doesn't mean that everything else goes by. You know what I mean? Like it means there's a priority, and then there's lots of other things that can still be important, but discerning what that one, I think, helps us. So anyway, I'm sorry, but go ahead and please continue.
Also, another thing I would encourage couples to do is we make bucket lists of things that we want to do.
yeah.
And now our bucket list is shorter. There's less of life there to live. But anyway, so we had on our bucket list to do ORAG, which is like
the ORAG is in the Shenandoah. It's close to us here. It's the most dangerous hike. We didn't know that at the time. Our grandkids and our kids had done it a number of times.
Opa, you need to do ORAG.
Yeah, you can do ORAG. So we went out, okay, we're going to do ORAG. So ORAG is, the first part of it's not so bad. It's just climbing a mountain. But then the last 2 miles, scramble. You're climbing over granite. You're letting yourself down between granite. And, it was really, we got to the top.
I don't go all the details, but we survived.
We survived. Her hands were bleeding when we got to the top.
Oh,
And,
wow.
I mean, but we did it.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah, we did it. We got a picture of it to prove it.
But
Wow.
Yeah, I don't feel that a date has to be a place where you're trying to resolve conflicts.
No.
I think you need to do that in a different environment, different timing. I do believe that there comes a time when you have to sit down and think through. Joyce and I resolve conflicts in 5-10 seconds. I mean, it doesn't. Most of our conflicts have already been resolved. For 62 years, you've solved your problems by now. Mm-hmm. But if there is a conflict and you really can't get to the solution right away, the date is not the time to do it.
That's right.
I think the whole point of a date is just have fun together. Yeah. And it's something you really, like you say, you look forward to it and you find the energy to do it. I mean, after a hard day's work, if you were to sit down and start watching TV, you'd go to sleep. So that's one of the reasons you get out of the house. You get out of the house, you go to somewhere, you get invigorated, you have fun, and that is basically what makes Love Bank deposits. I mean, that's the best way to make Love Bank deposits. Now, you can make a lot of deposits during the week by just being nice to each other, but it's an intentional way of saying, I want to sustain our love for each other. And if we don't do this, we're going to lose that love. And if we don't have that love, everything else about our relationship is going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Dr. Harley, will you give us a really quick little sketch of what the Love Bank is? Because we're all like nodding our heads. We get it. But I bet a lot of people, they've maybe heard that, but they don't understand what it is. Yeah,
the question really is, what is romantic love? What is it? And I have a psychology background. I know about Pavlov's dog. Basically, associate red light with the meat, and so the red light eventually causes the dog to salivate to the meat, to the red light, and you give him a shock at blue light. When the blue light comes on, he goes running off in all directions. And my attitude, and again, you got to remember, I'm an AI guy. I'm thinking linearly. I have a physics background, and I'm thinking romantic love is nothing more than associations. You associate the person that you're with a really good experience, so that eventually the person by themselves creates that good experience. So it's a form of association.
Right.
And so I came up with the idea of the romantic of the love bank by saying that whenever you're feeling good and somebody's there, they're going to end up you're going to make love bank deposits in their love bank. Now, you might not be doing anything in particular, but they're just having a good time and you're standing there. You can get credit for those love bank deposits.
Yeah.
And you also can make love bank withdrawals. If you're with a person that is just really, really sick, you're going to get the withdrawals even though you didn't do anything to make them unhappy. And so the basic idea of love bank deposits is that you do things intentionally to make make your spouse happy. You learn how to make your spouse happy. My basic argument about marriage itself is that it's a relationship of mutual extraordinary care. That's what marriage is. And very few people will argue with me about that definition. That when you marry somebody, you commit yourself to their care. All right. I say, let's do it in a way that maximizes love bank deposits. Let's make the person you're married to the happiest when they're with you. And you can train people how to do that when they've never been able to do that in the past. I think I can take two people who have never known each other and teach them how to fall in love with each other quicker than I can save the marriages of many of the couples that I'm trying to work with, because they have dug themselves such a hole in the love bank. They are in such a deficit condition that getting all these love bank deposits back is a big job. Whereas a person that's never known each other, they come with a clean slate. And so you can make those love bank deposits. So I've often argued that you bring two people to me, I can figure out how they can be in love with each other. The real trick, though, is how to get a couple that hate each other to fall in love with each other. And those are the people that I work with. Most of the people that I work with start out by hating each other or very disliking each other a lot. And the question is, how do you save those marriages? You make love bank deposits and you avoid love bank withdrawals, and it works.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. That really is helpful. All of y'all, all three of you have long and lengthy marriages with these great practices of prioritizing your spouse. Now, we're in the empty nest years, and you can see these years of faithfulness bearing fruit. Tell us in these last few minutes that we have ways that you're showing now your best practices, ways that are really you've shown up for each other that are just bearing the fruit now.
Well, I'll chime in. I think one of the things that I didn't really realize, I came from a severely dysfunctional background. So as the kids were leaving, it was almost like I had this feeling of being abandoned all over again. And it was really weird to understand the inner thinkings of what was actually going on with me.
Yes, it was.
Most of the time I'm like, I don't know what you've done, but I might kill you. I'm just not going to say anything. So all those fun menopausal years and things like that. But it was interesting because I just began to try to find the things that I loved about Greg, not the things that were wrong. But there was something so beautiful that he did that he had no idea would be so healing to my soul. And I remember at one point, it just felt like the whole world was coming down. And I remember him looking at me and he said, "Sweetheart, I'm not going anywhere." And when he said those words, it hit, and I understood exactly what I felt. I felt like everything was being ripped from me. And to have that one constant companion, it doesn't matter if it's easy, doesn't matter if it's hard. Like the fact is we've made a commitment to one another, and the more that we can foster that commitment, express that commitment, find the things that we love about one another, not the things that are lacking. I think that those are just disciplines. But the moment that he said, I'm not going anywhere, I really realized I got my personal life. And it gave me the peace. And there's so much in that too, because sometimes I think we sell short. We go through some difficulties, and if we're not careful, we begin to take it out on the very person. But if we can keep that, I'm just so grateful for someone who is with me in the darkest seasons of my soul. There's a love that so surpasses euphoric love, that when you know that you have someone who is standing by you, who's seen you in your darkest moments, and then they say the beautiful words, I'm not going anywhere, that really ministered to me.
I would only add just a couple of small things to that real quick. And thank you for honoring me so much. Believe me, for every year that she, that I've had to do that for her, there's been about 10 that she had to do that for me. So just to set the record straight. But, I think so often we can get caught up in, again, the difficulties of dark seasons and, and all this stuff. And I can remember, over the years, and I'm sure everybody on here can relate to this, of hearing people say things like, I love her more now than I did the day I married her. And to be honest with you, for me, that always puzzled me. I'm like, how in the world could I love her more than I love her now? Right. And what I would say is that I do. And the reason is because we have been through hard times. And to me, I think that today, sometimes society sort of endorses,
It's not easy.
if it's, you deserve more, you deserve to be happy, all these different things. And I wouldn't say that that's wrong. But I would say that the key to that is to pressing into one another and getting through the hard times, and really committing to one another. And I can say that today I love her more than I did in the past. And the thing that I would say is that in those seasons where we feel like we're on different pages, or we have a lot of diversity, right? What I would say is that you show me a team that has not endured adversity, and I'll show you a team I can poke holes in, right? But if a team pulls together and they fight through adversity and they learn to love each other even in the difficult times, then I'll show you a team that is strong and undefeatable.
Very good.
I love that. I know, Dr. Harley, you had a great quote. You said, being in love is magic.
Yeah, basically, my attitude is that as scientifically oriented as I am, and as linear as I am a romantic. I believe in a romantic relationship, and I think of it as something that is supernatural. When I feel love toward Joyce, I feel like it's something that comes from somewhere else. It's not me. I'm not that type of a person. And yet it affects me. And to me, that is the magic of romantic love. I think romantic love sustains marriages more than anything else. No one has ever come to me in marriage counseling where they're both in love with each other and they say, we have a bad marriage.
Yeah.
I never see them. I never see people that are in love. I test people for whether they're in love or not. And when they come to see me, they're not in love. And when they leave, they are in love. And I say, okay, now you know how to get to where you are today. Keep it that way the rest of your life. And you're going to find yourself so fulfilled, so happy. Why avoid the steps that it takes to achieve that objective when everybody can do it?
Okay, now let's solve the mystery. Who has been married the longest? David and Claudia, what is your anniversary?
December 28th, 1962.
What? I'm sorry, say it again.
What date?
December 28th, 1962.
We
Okay.
got you beat by 2 weeks. It's December 15th,
Whoa!
1962.
I love it.
Together.
I love it. That
It's the
December.
anniversary of my wife's parents, and it is now the anniversary of my daughter, and it's the anniversary of my granddaughter.
Oh,
Granddaughter. So they're all going to be married December 15th for
Wow.
generations to come.
I
Remember
what a perfect tribute. I mean, but you're talking about pursuing a lasting love, and think of the legacy. Think of your legacy, Dr. Harley, you and Joyce, and you, David and Claudia, and Greg and Julie, all your legacies. Just thank you so much for being here and inspiring all of us on Valentine's Day.
we
I
enjoyed
really
it.
enjoyed the experience. Thank you
Oh,
for inviting us.
Yes, what an honor.
Thank you.
we are just so glad you were able to be here with us. And viewers, thank you as well for joining us for National Marriage Week's finale. You can find answers to your questions still at marriageweek.org.